Dear delegates, we are very honored to have with us this afternoon His Excellency Honorable Frank Bainimarama, the Prime Minister of the Republic of Fiji and President-designate of COP23. Honorable Prime Minister and President-designate of COP23. All parties have been working diligently over the last 2 weeks to advance work on a number of issues under the Convention, the Kyoto Protocol and the Paris Agreement. Achieving full implementation of the Paris Agreement is one of the main tasks before us, and COP23 will play a crucial role in advancing this effort. Your Excellency, we all look forward to working under your guidance with you and your team over the coming months to make COP23 a success. Distinguished delegates, before I give the floor to our special guest, the incoming presidency would like to show a short video on the impacts of climate change in Fiji.
Climate change, a few years ago, we didn't know what was climate change. Maybe 5 years ago, started to notice change in the weather pattern. Compared to the last few years, there was a sudden change.
We have experienced the effects of climate change in a number of ways here in Fiji. For example, the Category 5 storm we experienced last year, it caused huge damage to our infrastructure, wiped out almost a third of our GDP. We lost about 44 of our loved ones. There was massive damage to schools and personal property and homes.
Most of the damages that we are seeing right now has been contributed by climate change.
Everything has changed from the certain to the uncertain. The rise in sea levels have prompted villages to request government to ask for relocation. A lot of areas that were thought to be safe have now become danger areas. That's what climate change has brought.
Excellencies, distinguished delegates, I now have great pleasure to invite Honorable Frank Bainimarama, the Prime Minister of the Republic of Fiji and President-designate of COP23, to take the floor. Thank you.
Your Excellency, the President of COP22, Your Excellency, the Executive Secretary of the UNFCCC, Your Excellencies, distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen, Bula Minaka, and a very good afternoon to you all. I'm delighted to join you all in Bonn towards the end of your current deliberations, but at the start of a very big year for me personally as incoming president of COP23. I want to begin by paying tribute to the current president of COP22, His Excellency Mr. Saladin Mezwa, his chief negotiator, Ambassador Sis Mekwa, and the climate champion, Akima El-Haiti, and to say how much the global community has appreciated Morocco's leadership. It has had a challenging mission as the first nation to assume the presidency after the historic agreement that we reached in Paris in 2015. Certainly, the ball is being passed to Fiji this year at a very critical time, but we very much appreciate the way that ball has been positioned to give us the best opportunity to kick it forward ourselves. And as incoming president, I very much appreciate the assistance of the Moroccans to this point and their pledge to continue to support us, just as we will assist Poland when the time comes for us to do so in 2018. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, I also want to acknowledge and thank the Executive Secretary of the UNFCCC, Her Excellency Patricia Espinosa, and her entire team for the support they are giving Fiji. And of course, I want to pay special tribute to the government and the people of Germany for their wonderful gesture, facilitating COP23 being held here in the beautiful city of Bonn. This has enabled Fiji to become the first small island developing state to assume the presidency of this very important process, which encompasses the formal negotiations and the partnerships for action. By extending a hand of friendship to Fijians and Pacific Islanders, Germany is empowering us and giving us a voice that we would never have without that assistance. So, thank you to the people of Germany and the people of Bonn for embracing us in the way that you have. And we look forward very much to working together in a spirit of friendship and collaboration to make COP23 Fiji Bonn an unqualified success. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, I also want to thank you all for the support you have given Fiji in these sessions. To our chief negotiator, Ambassador Nazat Shamim Khan, our climate champion, Minister Inia Seriratu, our climate ambassador, Ambassador Deo Saran, and our Pacific Special Representative, Amena Yoboli. Many of you have already had the benefit of meeting them. But those of you who haven't, may I ask them to stand, please. Because you will certainly be seeing a lot more of them in the coming months, along with the rest of the Team Fiji. Thank you. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, as incoming COP president, I will be relying a great deal on my team, especially Ambassador Shamim Khan. I see myself more as a team captain, leading from the front, giving encouragement and persuasion where it's needed, and fulfilling my promise to bring the non-state actors closer to this process by not only spending a great deal of time here in what we are calling the Bula zone, but over in the Bonn zone down the road, because I'm convinced that pursuing an inclusive process that ultimately involves every global citizen is the best way, the only way to move our collective agenda forward. My role, of course, is to be impartial, to act in the collective interest of all nations, but I certainly bring my own perspective to these negotiations. And it is that of a Fijian, a Pacific Islander, who comes from a region of the world that is bearing the brunt of climate change, whether it is the rising seas, the extreme weather events, or changes to agriculture that threaten our way of life and, in some cases, our very existence. We, who are most vulnerable, must be heard, whether we come from the Pacific or other small island developing states, other low-lying nations and states or threatened cities in the developed world like Miami, New York, Venice, or Rotterdam. But together, we must speak out for the whole world, every global citizen, because no one, no matter who they are or where they live, will ultimately escape the impact of climate change. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, many of you have asked what Fiji's vision is for COP23, the principles that will govern our presidency, our aims and objectives. While acknowledging the important leadership roles of past COP presidencies in laying the foundation for a robust COP23, Fiji's vision for COP23 is this: to advance the work of the UN Framework Convention on Climate Change and preserve the multilateral consensus for decisive action to address the underlying causes of climate change, respecting climate science. To uphold and advance the Paris Agreement, ensure progress on the implementation guidelines and undertake consultations together with the Moroccans' COP22 presidency to design the process for the facilitative dialogue in 2018. To build greater resilience for all vulnerable nations to the impacts of climate change, including extreme weather events and rising sea levels, to enable access to climate adaptation finance, renewable energy, clean water, and affordable climate risk and disaster insurance, and to promote sustainable agriculture. To forge a grand coalition to accelerate climate action before 2020 and beyond between civil society, the scientific community, the private sector, and all levels of government, including cities and regions. I repeat, we are all vulnerable and we all need to act. To harness innovation, enterprise and investment to fast-track the development and deployment of climate solutions that will build future economies with net zero greenhouse gas emissions, in an effort to limit the rise of global temperatures to 1.5 degrees Celsius above pre-industrial levels. To draw a stronger link between the health of the world's oceans and seas and the impacts of solutions and the impacts of and solutions to climate change as part of a holistic approach to the protection of our planet. To infuse COP23 with a Fijian Bula spirit of inclusiveness, friendliness, and solidarity, and promote the Pacific concept of Talanoa. This is a process of inclusive, participatory, and transparent dialogue that builds empathy and leads to decision-making for the collective good. It is not about finger-pointing and laying blame, but is about listening to each other, learning from each other, sharing stories, skills, and experiences. By focusing on the benefits of action, this process will move the global climate agenda forward. In summary, Fiji's vision is for a presidency that is transparent and inclusive of all, advances the Paris Agreement, and accelerates climate action for all vulnerable societies, drawing on our own experience as a small island developing state in the Pacific. Excuse me. So, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, that is Fiji's vision for COP23, one that is inclusive and is very much focused on maintaining the momentum for the implementation of what was agreed in Paris in the end of 2015. A diplomatic triumph, thank you. A diplomatic triumph that I have described as France's gift to the world for the sake of all 7.5 billion people on Earth. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, for a small nation like Fiji, with limited capacity and a tropical cyclone last year that wiped out about 1/3 of our GDP, this presidency is a financial challenge. I would like to warmly thank those nations that have already contributed to Fiji's presidency: China, the United States, the European Union, and Germany, and organizations such as UNDP and the Asian Development Bank. I've also had the great pleasure to announce that during the course of the last few days, we have been given a significant contribution from Australia and financial support from New Zealand. We are extremely grateful for these contributions. We are in discussions with a number of other countries and organizations regarding additional financial assistance, but we would welcome any assistance from those who have the means to support us. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, in closing, I have the great pleasure to formally unveil Fiji's dedicated website for COP23. On it, you will find a range of information about our plans for the coming year, as well as information about the effects of climate change on our people and other Pacific islands. Plus, of course, general information about Fiji and our engagement with the rest of the world. Those of you with computer access can log on now at www.cop23.com.fj. But I hope you will all eventually access this very important tool for our presidency, as well as our mission to explain the impact of climate change on our own people and the rest of the Pacific. Thank you for your attention, and I'll look forward to meeting as many of you as possible, not only during the rest of this session, but when we gather together in Bonn in November. I see myself as very much a people's president, and undoubtedly, by the end of this process, a guy called Frank from Fiji will have selfies with people from all over the world. Thank you. God bless you all.